This episode of the Stickers and Scuffs podcast has been brought to you by Remax Jack. Jack provides a friendly, customer-driven service in search for homes and provides excellent details on the market, values, and trends in buying and selling. Jack has been able to work with Cam on his search and always makes himself available when he has a question. Remax Jack will help you if you're looking to buy or sell a home within the GTA. He's who Cam K trusts to find his next home, and he should be yours too. Remember, call Remax Jack and start to pack. For more information, go to remaxjack.ca.
Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Stickers and Scuffs podcast. We are glad to welcome in Lane Zardo. They call him the Thrillbilly, which is hilarious. I love the nickname. And you know what? It is a thrill every time he is out on the racetrack. Lane, getting to watch you run around that 36 Mustang has been really enjoyable the last couple of years. 2021 Quick champion. Close this year once again. Took it right down to the final race of the season. Thank you so much, Lane, for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Cool thing about my nickname as well is my grandfather's name's Bill, dad's name's Billy, brother's name's Billy Joe, so they had to give me a Billy somewhere in there. But yeah, thank you guys for having me on. It was definitely a good year with my 36 team in the Best of Forest Products Leslie Ford Mustang, and I am excited for the off season though. I got just like you've been trying to paint for 6 months. I've been trying to waterproof my basement for like 6 months and tried to start that halfway through race season. I just finished a decent amount of it last weekend. So we're running out of daylight here.
Man, I feel you on the home projects. I got the upstairs ripped apart right now. This is the fan cave in the basement here. And it's hard to do when you're busy going everywhere every weekend and stuff. It's nice to get back home and check some of those things off the list. You just talked about your whole line of bills and everything in your family. Talk about quickly a bit of the racing heritage that the Zardo family is.
Yeah, so my grandfather started racing back in, I believe, the mid to late 60s. Started racing. He worked at a scrapyard for a guy named Jimmy Hallahan, and he built. Jimmy Hallahan used to race at Pinecrest and a few other places. He's got quite a name around the Maritimes, especially. And so my grandfather built a car, and it ended up working all right. Jim Hallahan had to drive it, and he ended up winning with it. So he figured he could build one. Why not race one? And kind of just took off from there. He created his own legacy, obviously getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. Then I got washed down to my Aunt Sharon, was the first second generation one, and she was wild on the racetrack. She won a lot of races, and she never took any shit. And except for when she started dating my Uncle Pete, all of a sudden she started finishing second a lot more ahead. And my dad got into it as well, and I've always had so much respect for my dad driving because I'm not gonna say I got a lot of stuff handed to me, but my grandfather made me work for it a little bit, but like everything was always right there. Like I was gonna be a race car driver. My dad, on the other hand, he had to hide his race car, his first race car that he bought from my grandfather. And it's like, well, when you show up to the racetrack, it's gonna find out real quick. So he had to break some rules, and he got into racing, and then it just got passed down from generation to generation. You know, my cousin Petey went to the States, and you know, always fun bench racing with Petey because of he's been able to experience so much more than me on such big racetracks. So him asking for my opinion on something is a pretty high ranking feeling to me. But yeah, I'm very blessed with racing heritage, and it's worked out really well in my favor to the point where I'm able to have serious conversations with people at a young age, like Junior Hanley and Mike McCall and Brian McDonald. They've always treated me pretty seriously from a young age, which is really cool.
And it's one of the things that we've talked about with several drivers and that have that lineage. But you know, Lane, I'm very curious because you've got that family history, and as a young racer yourself, you say that you know, yeah, sure, stuff did come a little bit easier to you, but you still have to work on those cars. You still have to give your input. What do you think about the new age racer, where there is a lot of kids that come into motorsports and don't have to work on their own cars? What's your opinion on that? And do you think that in a way that that type of old school racer is kind of being lost in the new generation?
Well, I mean, there's two kind of ways to look at it, to be honest, because realistically on the 36 car, I don't have any, I have no reason why that car is so fast. I just happen to drive that. They bring that car from the shop and they make it fast, and they bust their asses off. And I don't really have to do too much on that, which actually gives me a bit of an advantage at the racetrack. When I'm not working on the car at the racetrack, you know, I can stay in the car for long practice sessions, and you know, you feel you don't really have to get your hands too much dirty. But on another point, like, you really, to understand how a race car works, you have to work on it. And so, I mean, luckily my grandfather and brother are so hard on equipment. I didn't go without working on race cars this year. True facts. My grandfather is one of the greatest race car drivers in all of Ontario. He's raced for like 50 years and never caused one accident. It's never been his fault. He's got every part bent on his goddamn race car, but none of it's his fault. Yeah, when it comes to the question of like the new age drivers, like I said, man, it does give that a little bit of an advantage, but you know, that's only okay if they are able to work on it at the shop, because you do need to know the fundamentals of racing. You need to know, you know, the geometry, and when you move a Panhard bar, this is how it feels, and this is how a sway bar works, and shocks and all that stuff. And you know, that's a cool part about motorsports, is every part of motorsports is a little bit different, so you can never really stop learning on it.
Mm-hmm.
And you've kind of done it all, really. I mean, at such a young age, you've done different divisions of racing, obviously coming up and winning in the super stocks, which is, I have to say, one of my favorite divisions in all of motorsports, one of the most competitive classes and one of the most fun to watch. You got some really cool competitors to be up against, young stars, veterans, names from the past. In fact, this year's champion, cast car legend himself, Pete Van de West, coming back and winning a championship. Let's talk about that field, man. It is definitely stacked.
Yeah, I didn't know who Pete Van der West was until Sunset last year. I just when I got into driving a race car, it was kind of around the same time that he stepped out. So I remember kind of shooting the shit with him at Sunset before the first Quick race last year in 2021. I'm just kind of telling him, "Oh, have you been here with the new track?" and just kind of giving him a few pointers. He had to start right in front of me. And the thing I said to him was, you know, just be patient, come off low and point it straight, and just be patient through this field. And I think lap 5, I sent it 3 wide on the guy and ended up costing him a sway bar. So, but he was a cool guy to drink with after the races. He could tell that I was sorry. Like I full on admitted that I messed up there. And you know, I kind of like these super stocks a little bit because you can drive. You obviously can't be slamming the hell out of people, but you can drive a little bit more aggressively. If I knock my toe out on a super stock, I'll feel it over the course of the next 10 to 15 laps slowly wear off. If you knock the toe out on your late model, everything's dependent on the travel. So now if you can't drive the car in that hard, you're not traveling, your geometry is all messed up, and it screws it up way more. So super stocks are a lot funner. They're heavier cars to drive. You never have a perfect handling race car, but but my God, they produce some of the best racing there is.
This is something that we get to talk to a few select people about. Kyle Steckley comes to mind for one that we've had recently, and Trayton Lapsevich. Adaptability. You've driven so many different things in the way, like what you're speaking of right now, how you can just feel with your toe knocked out and just what happens when you feel that handle going away on you. How, like, it's all just seat time, right? Just adapting from discipline to discipline, but it's that's got to take time in itself, just honing your craft in each car.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if one thing that kids have on adults right now is I'm starting to realize it, where you just got balls, man. Like a kid doesn't have to wake up for work in the morning. He's got to go to.
You don't know what the thing can't do, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like you've never been bit by a dog, but but when you're a kid and you're coming through, you have to have a little bit of a natural ability to kind of drive and feel for the race car and whatnot. But then you can get to the point with like I said, when you're working on the cars himself at the shop and you're making some of those adjustments, then you can really tell and you can fine tune. And that's why me and Brad Whittle make such a good team, who's the crew chief on my race car, because, you know, there's not 3 points in the corner to me. There's 7 points in the corner to me. And I'm telling him what I feel on my ass, what I feel with my feet, what I feel with my hands, like every part of it. And then able to try to diagnose where we can hit the problem exactly. Right. So it's a little bit of an advantage. It does take a little bit of time, but you got to drive a lot of pieces of shit too, to be honest. I started racing with a really, really fast super stock program back at Sunset in like 2010. Even before that in a fast mini stock. And then when I started doing my own late model stuff, you know, it's not like we didn't have the best equipment, but I didn't know what the fuck I was doing excuse my language. I didn't know what the hell I was doing in the shop at all. And so it made my equipment a little bit harder to drive. And now that I'm in some fast equipment with Kenny Grubb and the Best Forest product Ford, you kind of use the experience you take from driving not the top notch equipment. Like
100%.
I don't know. You're definitely not going to be able to win all the time in a bad car, but a good driver needs to drive a bad car just to get that feel, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think
makes perfect sense.
This is kind of a key point when we talk about, say, NASCAR down south, of all these kids that come up and are in top equipment, all in the smaller divisions. Then they get up to Cup and they're terrible. And it's because they've never had that experience of driving a bad car before. We see it countless times where you have to be able to do that. You have to be able to adapt and learn, hey, I'm not going to be able to win in this equipment week in and week out. And going out there and trying to prove something every single lap isn't the best thing for the equipment. When you guys go out to the racetrack, you guys don't have the ability of going back home and running 2 or 3 backup cars. Like, that's just not the reality, right? You have a car that you're going to have to fix at the end of the day. Obviously, coming from a racing family, I'd imagine that all those types of, you know, the opinions and the way that you guys ran races is brought down from generation to generation. Like, I imagine you learned so much from your grandfather, your father, your aunt, your whole family, really, and they all you probably gave you how you do this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a product of my surroundings, for one, right? But another thing is we always have black race cars. That's because they don't show rubber, man. Like my 36 car's got a lot more white, and that body looks more beat up than any black car I've ever driven. But yeah, and yeah, learning from my family and all that. And one thing I will point out too is, from what I've noticed, if you're in a street vehicle with a really good race car driver, like a very well experienced and won a lot of races, and you know, you're happy with his abilities, he's just gonna drive like a normal Joe Blow. He's gonna not use too much gas, not use too much brake. You're gonna barely be able to even feel the car move when you're riding with him. If you're with Johnny finishing 15th or you know, like just any random person that thinks they're really good, they try to showboat themselves, right? And you don't want to be that guy. Never be the guy that owns a Lamborghini and brags about the Lamborghini. Just show up with the Lamborghini.
Yeah, well, that's true. And then the person that brags about the Lamborghini and floors it and then whacks into another vehicle, right?
Yeah.
Typically how it goes, right?
Yeah.
You had
That's exactly
I
how
love
it goes.
watching those. There's some great YouTube videos of people trying to showboat in their vehicles and just wrecking them. But
Yeah, the dude doing the burnout in the Camaro, then he falls right out of it.
yeah,
And then the Camaro, oh
yeah,
man, I could go on forever. That's
yeah,
awesome.
exactly. And I mean, but the reality is like I look at that, and I mean, Graydon and I have had this conversation, Lane, that I mean, in Canada, the reality is we don't have teams that have 3, 4, 5 backup cars, even in the Pinty series. Like that's not a reality. Money is not here. It's not what you're going to see. And having to, spend the money. I mean, you've been in racing for quite a while. Has the last couple of years been the most expensive and or the hardest in the racing community? Or is this just a temporary thing?
Well, there's two ways to look at it, man. I think you could blame some stuff on COVID. People couldn't race, so they found other things to do and they didn't come back. But I'm to be honest with you, if it wasn't for COVID, I would probably have to take a year or two off within the next 5 years, just because life stacks up on you. And I had a great time during COVID. I still raced about 3 times, but I got to enjoy my summer and do other stuff. And then we got back to the racetrack for 2021, and then the fans came back, and it restricted my hunger. But I think COVID also kind of helped racing, not so much for the prices of the product and tires and all that. All that stuff skyrocketed, which was really crappy, unfortunately. But it gave people a break, and kind of let people come back to the racetrack, because we didn't have a good year at most racetracks in 2019. She was falling off pretty hard there. But as soon as the fans came back, the first race I was at with fans, I believe, was the APC race at Delaware in 2021. And that like there's 40 cars there, and it's not like that every weekend, obviously, but it was breathtaking, man. Like, it makes you feel like, I'm a goddamn race car driver. Like, this is badass. There's people chanting names, and you got people cheering, and then you pull out the old cowboy hat. You just try to give them a show, right?
Oh man, that's if there was merch ready for Lane Zardo, that's it right there. I'm a goddamn race car driver.
Oh man,
perfect,
yes.
perfect. I absolutely love it. I mean,
that's my favorite thing to say. I said it. I even said it at our banquet too, for APC. I kind of finished it off with saying, kids want to be you, and it's true, man. You ask any 5-year-old kid what they want to be, and they will tell you a firefighter, an astronaut, or a race car driver. And sometimes when you're warming up the tires, you just got to give it that little bit more gas.
I'm 41 years old and I want to be a goddamn race car driver.
Well, yeah, look, I heard you might be getting the shot next year with BT Racing, Chris Lawrence.
Yeah, we're going to go and run a couple with those guys, I think.
Good, man. Chris Lawrence is so good for the sport.
Big time.
Only one race car is pretty hard, and he's got like 7 on the go, and he comes from a racing family as well, with him and his brother. But yeah, man, if you get the opportunity to run one of those bone stock there, but they're animals. I remember watching their race at Delaware from corner 1 and seeing them drive through the corner, and holy crap, they are animals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The option was kind of there for this, like to come and maybe do the debut at the Brawl this year. And I was like, nah, I'm not in the right place for that right now. It'll be this year. I think we're going to do a couple with those guys, but yeah, he's so great for the sport. I mean, all you racers kind of pick your poison, and that racing's kind of the drug of choice. I mean, the Lawrence boys got to be junkies straight up, man, because they do load themselves up on race cars. That's for sure. But luckily for guys like me, that's awesome. It's a great community to be a part of, isn't it? I mean, like you say, the amount of people that the door is open for you to get advice from or whatever, maybe because of who you were, but still, I mean, the community that you can lean on for advice and information. There's such a wealth of information and experience out there that the guys would rather beat you heads up than watch you floundering around out there and everything. And it's cool for us to see that, and I'm sure you see it quite a bit too, Lane?
Yeah, just doors always open kind of sport. I've always said there's 2 types of people at the racetrack, and it's either the greatest people you've ever met in your life are bottom of the barrel. And I think it's like an 80-20 split, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But like there's some really good people in this sport, and I think that's why we're all so addicted to being at the racetrack, because we just want to be around the people we love.
It's true, man.
Well said. Yeah.
We've experienced this, we weren't really well known within the last couple of years, and we started this 2 years ago, almost. It was a couple of weeks ago, actually. We just celebrated our 2-year anniversary, and I tell you, man, anytime that we're out of the racetrack, it hurts. Like that's why we're going with this podcast all off season long, try and keep it going, because I mean the racing that we saw this past year, man, it is so good. There's no stupid point systems. There's no deals with the new cars, and there's always problems, sure, but we don't have as many issues to deal with up here as maybe you have to deal with, say, the Cup Series. But I'm curious, Elaine, what racing you do follow. If it's the Cup Series, if you follow anything specific, if it's stuff up here, that you're a fan of racing, obviously, as a racer. So who is it that you go out and support?
I follow Supercross a lot, Supercross, NASCAR. I try to follow F1 for the sole purpose that everybody at my work talks about F1. But I'm not a fan of open wheel racing, man. I need fenders. I like to hit people too much. But I mean, like just any type of racing is really cool. I think the guys with the biggest balls are rally racers. Like, holy crap!
Big time.
Even their fans have bigger kahunas than you got. Like they're standing right beside a jump.
Yeah, out there looking.
I always thought. You always think, oh, you're the smartest or the dumbest race fans out there, right? But yeah, it's absolutely true.
Yeah, man, I'd love to just kind of branch off and do a few other things. Like maybe if I could try snow racing or ice racing this winter or whatever. And that it's almost like playing a video game where you unlock a new trick or you unlock a new like power or whatever. When you drive other pieces of equipment, you unlock a new feeling in your ass, and you can use that with everything else that you drive. So the more different things that you drive, the more feelings you have. And you can kind of compare this to that.
Well, you did that this past year, actually. You actually you ran in the OSS series, helped out Tim Tolton in that number 3 Black Magic team. Pretty impressive for your debut to go out and finish there, and probably could have been up there and won the race if it wasn't rain shortened. And then you got out there and ran a couple just around the back for Chad McGlynn as well, and getting that experience. So what was that like moving into I guess the Ontario Sportsman Series, running actually at your home track at Flamborough Speedway?
Yeah, it was really cool. I mean, those cars handle a lot like a super stock. They got they're heavy cars. They got old style brakes and shocks and whatnot on them. But their power is a lot more as well. So with running the 3 car, it was a cool experience. But I picked it up from Barney Speedway where he had it up there, and I got home at probably like 10:30, and I had to change the seat around, and I had to put a little bit of my own setup in it and whatnot. So it would have been nice to have a little bit more time, but I'm a prisoner of my own choices on that one. He asked me if I want to race, and I said hell yeah. So it was cool to do that. And then with Chad McGlynn, he just wanted somebody to qualify the car, just because it was his championship night, and I kind of was talking to him like, well, I already qualified her in, may as well do a few laps, see what the car has, and make a little bit of tow money. And the tires on the car were just shot so bad. I've never driven a car with so much power and such bald tires on it. And so it was wild. It was wild back there, but it was also really cool. I was told that only Chad McGlynn, Sean McGlynn, who are brothers, and Kenny Grubb before me have ever driven that car, and I'm the 4th person.
Wow!
So
that's awesome.
It's kind of it's cool to know that Roger, which is McGlynn's father, had that little bit of faith in me to not junk their shit. Because realistically, when somebody puts you in a race car, they're saying, "Hey, here's $70,000. Don't destroy it." So
yeah,
it's always cool to have that, to feel people trust you like that.
Yeah, 100%. Like it's almost like 1A and 1B, but you're not sure which one's which. Like do the best you can, but don't junk the car.
most of the time people will tell me, race it. However, there's kind of like an unwritten kind of rule in my mind. Like if a mechanical issue happens and I plow it into the wall, it's not, it's like, that's not something I can control.
Yeah,
I'll
that's
still
not
contribute
you.
and try to help fix it. But now if I run like an asshole, or if I'm racing against people kind of, being jerks out there, you can always choose to be in a different situation. So if you're running somebody's car and something like that happens, then it's kind of on you. But it's also an awkward time if you ever do wreck somebody's car. It's not a fun feeling to walk back on.
Yeah, I can imagine it is not.
I think that would be my biggest fear of racing for somebody, would be wrecking it. I mean, you took a wild shot this past year at Delaware Speedway. I remember posting the video on Facebook because it was Jesus. That looked
it was
like
savage
it hurt.
looking.
I'm not sure if we ever found out what exactly happened on your super stock, but was that one of the biggest hits that you've taken? I think it was a mechanical failure in turn 2, and you hit it pretty good.
So before that, about like 10 years ago now, 7 years, holy crap, I'm getting old. My God. Back in the heyday, back in the good old days, I actually flipped the car at Peterborough for all the colors in practice. We rolled it back over. We won a heat race that weekend, and then I landed on top of the wall in the feature. It was a long weekend, and until this year, that was my hardest hit.
Jesus.
But you were going so fast at Delaware, through those straightaways, and speed doesn't kill you, but becoming stationary, that shit gets you every time when you come to that sudden stop.
Yeah.
So
got that right.
So that was the hardest I ever got rattled. I for a second I thought I was concussed. I jarred my head pretty good on the seat. Now in cup cars, they're actually telling drivers to keep their head as close to the seat as possible, so there's no impact on it. It's just it's straight shock through it. But that was definitely the hardest hit I've ever took. What actually happened was my brakes were overheating, and they overheated so bad I had a sticking caliber, so it melted the sidewall of my tire. And as unlucky as I am that happened, I'm so grateful it happened at corner 2 and not corner 4, because that would have written me right off.
Yeah, that would have been because you're so low and because you were
you there's so much more speed. 3 and 4, it's a wider corner, right?
Yes. And there's a longer distance to hit, right? I mean, at least the 2 arrows up, right?
Send it right up the track. Yeah.
Oh, there's a longer time to curse. There's a longer time to curse before you hit the wall.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the weirdest thing. Like if like I said, if I'm driving like a jackass or I'm racing against people being rough out there, I could always choose to be in a different situation. Getting in a wreck like that doesn't faze me, but that one kind of fazed me a little bit, just because it's something completely out of control, and all of a sudden it's like you're strapped to a train going into the side of a mountain. You can't control nothing. So it jarred me a little bit, but luckily we had a race at Flamborough the next day, and the car didn't get torn up really too bad. I hit it on a pretty decent angle, and we went back out and had a good run at Flamborough the next day.
Nice.
I mean, won the track championship this year and at Flamborough Speedway, and obviously it sucks because I love Flamborough Speedway. Wasn't able to get out there this year. We're definitely going to make sure we make a trip out there. But what do you have to say about Flamborough Speedway, because it is a great little track? I mean, it was a tough year for you guys out there. I mean, counts were a little bit down, but it still puts on a great show.
Yeah, it was a fun year. The only thing I didn't like about Flamborough was it was so far for my guys. Like, the 36 crew has such a big team where, I love to see Andy Schmidt come out to the racetrack as much as possible. He's kind of like him and Lauren Bester, who created Bester Forest Products. They kind of started out this whole racing team, and then got passed on to Kenny Grubb and then to me. So it's cool racing up at Sauble because they're able to come back. But at Flamborough, I think we still had some really interesting races. We had Chase Pinsnall come out and start racing this year, and that kid's going to be a hell of a wheel man when he's older.
Definitely,
he learned a
definitely
lot.
Looks like it.
Yeah,
he learned a lot. I remember I put a pretty fun move on him one weekend, and the next weekend the kid got me back in the exact same move. I'm like, it took me like 5 years to learn that. This is bullshit. But he had a really good year. We had fun racing with him. We had my teammate Roy Wilkie, Justin Collison, who's been a really good buddy of mine since I was born. Randy Russell. We had a few decent cars there and a few fun nights. So I can't really say enough about how Flamborough is. They let me start racing there when I was 12, and John Caselli, Frank Caselli, they've done a great job, and their hamburgers are unreal. I don't know why they don't have a beer garden. That's the only issue I got with Flamborough. They got flam burgers. They need flam brews.
Oh, yes. There you go.
Oh, nailed it, bud. Oh, I knew it. You're my kind of people for sure.
There you go. Hey, what are you drinking in there?
I got. Oh shit! I just knocked it over. I'm gonna have to clean that up later. We're live. A Muskoka Detour.
Oh, Muskoka.
Keeping it close to home. I'm up in Bracebridge, so enjoying those these days, which luckily my garbage can's right here, so it caught a lot of that. But
that's the first time it's happened, obviously.
Oh yeah, that never happens. We don't like to abuse those, but
just giving me more stuff to have to cut out from the editing, right?
Sorry, bud. Matt, I wanted to say before we move on or part whatever. I haven't seen them in a long time, but you got to see the Offspring, man. Are those guys still kick ass or what?
I've been to a few good concerts, and that was unreal, man. I try not to get seats when I go to a concert. I feel too secluded, so I'll either get like field seats if it's at the Budweiser stage, they're nice and cheap. And the Offspring was only like $120 for floor seats. So yeah, man, we had a wild time. The guys behind me were gracious enough to let me know they were going to start a mosh pit for the first song. So I had about 29 seconds to finish 2 beers. They all their hits, they just absolutely killed it. And I grew up watching like all these like snowboard videos and freestyle motocross videos, and you always heard the Offspring in every single like highlight reel.
Yeah.
So I've always been a big fan of them.
Get you pumped right up.
Oh yeah, got me pumped right up. I enjoy the mosh pit a little bit. I'm not a big guy, right? So it's thrown around. But then I got to enjoy. I went crowd surfing twice. I left my wallet, my car keys, everything with my friend, and said, "Just hold this. I'll see you when I see you, brother." And
nice.
It was pretty fun, man. The Offspring was absolutely unreal. I'd highly recommend going to their show. I got a Blink-182 tattoo on my chest. Now I think I got to get an Offspring tattoo on the other side.
Nice. Oh my God, Blink too, eh? Man, we see a lot of the same bands. Like, holy cow, it's a long time apart. I bet you though.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just saw them.
Yeah, I just saw them last night actually. So like, I'm trying to be more energetic on these interviews, but God, I'm running on like 3 hours of sleep right now. Long day at work too.
And you run on a lot better 3 hours sleep than I do. So you're doing great, man.
Yeah, we Lane, for coming on and chatting with us on 3 hours sleep. Obviously, we thank you for that, my friend. And we thank you for coming on the podcast, but we always like to give an opportunity for our guests to shout out their sponsors that help them get to the racetrack each and every week. And one thing before you get to that is I always want to say that what's really cool is getting to see is to get to see family so much at the racetrack, and to see see Debbie Joe posting all of those photos, taking amazing photos for the racing community is always something that I love to see. And she's got a great photo of you from the banquet that we're probably going to use for the thumbnail, but I guess that's got to be pretty cool too, to see everybody still being involved in the racing scene from the Zardo family, including how old is Grandpa that's out there still kicking ass?
He likes to think he's 36, but he's 80.
80 years old.
And like you commented on my mom too. I mean, it's such a big family thing. My mom is definitely not out in the shop with us helping us change engines, but she's come down to visit us from living like 45 minutes away, and she'll cook dinner on a little crock pot or a little portable stove just so me and Billy can eat while we're working on the cars, which is sweet. And she's a photographer too, and she's my favorite photographer at the racetrack, or tied with Thompson Photography and Jerry Opperswick. But having your mom as a photographer, you got your own personal paparazzi. She always takes some really good pictures of me and my brother, and always makes us feel like we're we're rock stars out there, just like how you guys give us our interviews and you guys make us feel like rock stars. So half the reason we do it is because of, it makes us feel that little bit larger than life for those few minutes that we're out on the racetrack, and then we get to talk about it with you guys.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Let's not get misty-eyed. Let's talk about the sponsors for you, Lane.
Hey, you guys still got me, sorry?
Yeah, we're just talking. We need to hear your thank yous for your sponsors that got you to the racetrack each and every race this year.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, my headphones are really crappy. They just clicked out. But so after saying that, I gotta thank all the people who make my professional life, how it is, and obviously my mom and my grandfather first and foremost. they raised me to the man I am today, and they're the reason why it's so easy to get to the racetrack. Both who I look up and aspire to be with, or be as well. My dad as well, my whole family, and then on the sponsor side, there's so many people just with Zardo Racing itself. We got KRM Medwell, we got MC Mechanical, National Exhaust. I normally have a picture of the race car in front of me so I can list off the sponsors, but I kind of.
Forest Products Ford, we got Leslie Ford, Shelby Roofing, Gord's Basement Waterproofing. Gord's Basement Waterproofing helped me out big this year with helping me waterproof my house, and we kind of made a deal like that. And Andy
is everything he does with that whole racing program and organization. They go all out there.
Well, obviously, we're ecstatic that we got to have you on the show, and we're excited to see more of you out on the racetrack. Hopefully we get to hear some plans for 2023 for you, Lane. And, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us tonight.
Yeah, boys. I appreciate you guys having me on here.
That's Lane Zardo. We'll catch you guys all next week on the Stickers and Scuffs podcast.